Here we go, everyone. All right, welcome everyone to Tuesday, January 16, 2025 Town Council Work Session. We have one item on the agenda tonight that we've talked about once before back in November. So we're bringing it back in front of the council to make sure we're all on the same page. And then what y'all decide today, we'll move it to the council meeting and vote on it so we can get moving with this project. As always, let's start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. And I'm gonna have Emma start us off. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty. Thank you, Emma. Great job. Great job. This is a public comment. There's no one out in the audience. It doesn't look like there's anybody online. If they do come across, we'll get it and we will follow up with the answers. And let's move right into the business item, which is the beach improvements. Again, last month, I think it was November 21st, or not last month before last, November 21st, we addressed. I'm going to turn this over now.
We're getting ready to do it.
Huh?
No,
No, I'm gonna leave it to you.
rolling into it.
Well, it's just a habit, just a habit.
Just gonna let you go.
Oh.
Okay, so I will kick it off. This will be a recap, but since it is recorded, I figured I should just run through everything that's in the paper that you all have. So I will summarize it really. So as the mayor mentioned at the November work session, we received an overview of the beach pier swim improvements. The project goals that were presented in November are as follows. Replace the underutilized boat slips with a paddlecraft launching deck on the north pier. Replace the underutilized boat slips with a sun deck on the south side of the pier. Increase the swim area. Provide ADA access to the beach. Provide vehicle access to the beach. That would be for town maintenance vehicles. And provide or enhance the existing soft kayak launch on the South Beach. During the work session, council and others, town staff indicated a preference for option one for all the project goals really, but with two changes. First, folks didn't think a sun deck was a good idea. There were concerns with the liability. And then the second change was to combine the ADA and the truck ramp into one ramp and then put it where the existing stairs are located. So that's the plan that we ended up with after the work session in November. After the work session, I reached out to our design consultant, Bayland, and I asked them to revise the draft design to reflect the discussion at the work session. You all have the draft plan. It was emailed to you. It's on board docs, and you also have a hard copy. So you have that, and we can talk about that in a bit. And then we also pulled together. I worked with Donnie and Linda, and we pulled together an estimated cost for the project. We came up with a cost of $190,000. As a reminder, we approved the estimated budget approved by council in FY24 and FY25 was $200,000. We have secured and do have in place $100,000 in grant funding, and then the remaining $100,000 would come out of town funds. Not town, right? Yep. Okay. So that's the budget. As far as next steps, assuming folks are okay with this plan and there are no changes, Bayland is under contract now to use the final approved design to obtain the necessary permits. So that'd be NDE, DNR, maybe Army Corps of Engineer, and county permits. And then concurrently, while Bayland is seeking permits, the town will draft and issue an RFP for the project. And I'll get to you in a second, Donnie. Donnie's going to weigh in on the RFP part of it real quick because there's another option to an RFP. After bids are received, obviously the council would vote on a consultant, and at that point we'll be able to update this estimated cost for the project, and perhaps depending on the numbers that come in, a discussion with council about whether we need to phase any part of the project for budgetary concerns. for budgetary reasons. So that's all I have. I will take questions, and we can discuss. And Donnie, can you maybe step up to the microphone? There is another option, to issue an RFP, and I don't really understand how it works, so I'm gonna let you talk about it.
Switch on the side, just press up.
All right, staff, I work with staff and we were looking to get an estimated budget for the project, just have an estimated idea. And when doing that, we found that the Calvert County every year puts out a contract for marine type work. So, their contract expired in January, but they're putting out a new contract. That'll be bid, and you have to be a licensed marine contractor to bid it. They have certain items in that marine contract. The new contract is taking effect in February. So we might be able to save costs by piggybacking off the county's contract. So what that means, the county had already put it out to bid. That's in our charter. We'll check with legal to make sure that is good, with the county contract. But they have items, like I say, and in this proposal, probably all the items will be covered in Calvert County's marine contract. So we're looking to save money. They'll do all the work. They'll put it out. They'll get unit prices. So we'll have unit prices. So we'll know like square foot of decking what it costs. We'll know what it costs to drive a pile. We'll know up front, and we'll just piggyback off that contract if that's the council's and mayor's way to go.
So, thank you so much. Exactly nailed it. There's a demand. One of our goals 6 years ago was continue to increase the water use, not just the beach, but really using the bay, with the kayaks, with the launches and the canoes and so forth. And, over time, we found that the two sides of the boat slip, based on design, currents, wind, rocks, maybe are used 17 times a year. And again, I'm sure Phil or Emma could give us an exact number, but it's not used a lot. So the idea of putting this on the north side, as you come down the ramp, it would be the actual launch situation, and we would have storage there. And then we would have to add another ramp almost down to the fishing pier, which is shown on here, to allow handicap use of our fishing area. Pretty cut and dry. We did get 2 different grants, one for 52, one for 50 to do that part. And then, the ramp for the ADA and or truck, because the tide has come up so far back in the day, we could drive in front of the octagon. So the entrance to the South Beach was pretty simple. Well, we'd still get that opportunity every once in a while, but it's slim to none, and it's mainly based on the wind. So adding that ramp there is a dead space. We're not going to lose any beach, and it's simple to do. And it's kind of, it really is protected there in that little corner there. So it would definitely check a lot of boxes for Phil and them on the waterfront, for DPW. But also, it really will allow the use of the donation of the wheelchair that was donated by Abigail to get onto the beach easier, to get to the beach and so forth. So I think it's a win-win. We have the money in the budget. We have Bayland working with us. And this is something that truly, as long as everything goes well, it really could be ready by the summertime. So as you look at this, I think this is probably one of our easier decisions to make. But what questions does council have about any of this presentation? Because I do want to move to the council meeting to vote on this tonight, just so we can solidify the support to move forward. So whatever you'll have, Councilwoman here will be more than happy to answer your questions.
I just had one from last time. I don't know if we moved forward with it. Did we ask any questions to MDE if we could find open grading if that square footage issue wasn't there anymore because it lets more sunlight through? And it's not something we need to know to make a decision, but it could be something that if we're looking at a topping for that deck, if instead of lumber, if there's something else that may benefit us later where it won't float off because more water will pass through it type of deals. So.
I'm sorry, Mick, I didn't hear your full question, but from what I understand, what you're saying is we're, in that plan, it shows us removing decking.
Yeah.
And we're going to remove enough decking to meet the square footage requirement.
Mhm.
So that shouldn't be an issue. We talked to Anna, who's our project manager from Bayland, and she didn't feel like that would be an issue. They said they don't like to issue permits for, piers anymore for that reason, but where that is, she didn't feel like that would be an issue. And that's why we, as part of our scope of work, had them to solidify getting the permits through MDE.
Okay.
We haven't looked at any other type of material just because, we found with the Trex and with other things that the wood, marine graded, treated pressured wood is probably hold up better than anything, for that, environment and for that large of a structure. We did, we had the fiberglass, a couple things, and we can look at the county contract though, as a marine contract to see if they have any spec for a different type of material.
Okay.
But I think that's kind of why it's
Yeah.
important to get this moving tonight,
Yeah.
get the
because that
permits,
could
and
still
if
be-
we get a kickback,
Yeah, it could be like a bit alternative, like, hey, do you have another decking that would fit within Rex or something? Okay.
right, and if we get a kickback on the permit from MDE, any
Yeah.
problem,
Pushback.
pushback, then we
I don't
can,
like the word kickback.
yeah,
Pushback.
right, I'm sorry. Right, that's not a good word, but if we get any pushback from MDE about the shading, then
Okay.
that's when we can definitely look into a different type of material to meet the requirements.
Vicky did make another point too, that, with the wave action, if the water can go through,
It might not
it would
pull up
push it up.
as
I
much.
mean,
And
just, right, it's not a bad thing to look into. And didn't we get something from Bob Gray right after do you remember that? After the November work session? And
Yes, he did email me a brochure. It was that was more fiberglass. It wasn't, so I'm not sure with the wave action we get there, whether that would hold up is my only concern. We'd have to probably get some references from people that use that. Because, a lot of that stuff is used in creeks and still water. Out here where we're at on the bay, you live right there, so you've seen the wave action we get. And that fiberglass is not as strong as,
fiberglass.
yeah.
So let's just make sure we have a note in places so we don't forget to look into it.
I mean,
But-
it's shady. It was just thinking of.
Yep.
Because like if we find something that works and the cost point's the same or not too
Right.
high,
Right,
it may be something that we could use in other places too. In future projects,
Right.
like if everyone wanted like a trail along the marsh where MDE was giving us issue about shading there, could be something like, oh, proved useful here. What about there? So I'm
okay.
thinking more long term.
Actually, I think that would be a great question to go back to Bayland and say, I know we designed it for marine grade, pressure treated wood,
Yeah.
but have you used
Yeah.
another material in other locations? And we could also get some feedback from them.
Yeah.
'Cause that's what they kind of specialize, so we can see if that's been used elsewhere.
Yeah, that was all I had.
Okay.
Sure.
One thing I do want to, we talked about, Councilwoman Kettler said option one, option two in your handout. And it's kind of like a hybrid of the two. So what I like to do is, once we get done with the questions, council gets done with the questions, let's list out exactly what it is. So when we go into our town council meeting, we can say what it is. Instead of saying option one, delete this,
Right.
let's just say what that's going to be. So
It's on page 2, but I can read it just so it's on, on the recording. Unless, Greg, did you have any questions or suggestions?
No, good job.
Mary? It looks good. Okay, all right. Paul?
they were very quiet
else?
tonight.
Phil, what do you think?
I think it's good.
All right. Okay, you want me to just read through the? summary of work?
Yeah, do the summary in this way, then when we go to vote on it, just to confirm it at the
Okay.
council meeting, I will be able to make sure I don't miss anything, because
Okay.
I'm good at missing
So
stuff.
I will just read out the summary of the proposed work. There are 8 items. Number 1 would be to remove and haul away old pilings and drive approximately 12 new pilings in the South Beach swim area. Second item will be to demo the existing lower pier portion and slips on the north side of the pier. And also demo the old wooden jetty on the South Beach. Third item will be to build a paddlecraft launch deck on the north pier. Fourth item would be to rebuild the ramp structure for ADA access to the fishing pier. The fifth item would be to purchase 2 manual boat lifts. Sixth item would be to build an ADA and truck ramp, combined ADA truck ramp, on the South Beach at the existing stair location. Seventh item would be to purchase sea nettle nets for the expanded swim area. And the eighth item would be to make enhancements to the existing paddlecraft launch area on the South Beach. For example, adding some new racks and things that make it easier to store boats and get them into the water.
Pretty self-explanatory. That's awesome. Any other questions?
I did have one thing.
Yes.
You know, I was looking at the lift for the kayaks on YouTube. And I noticed we're getting two, and it looks like they're both the same size. Are they both the smaller ones?
These here, the ones that are listed here,
Yeah,
these are the smaller ones I think that I had here.
yeah.
Size ones.
I'm-
Were they not high enough? They weren't going high enough?
You know, I don't know how many people have it, but I know Jim, you probably seen him. He's got a one that's bigger than what you and I get out there with. So I'm just thinking maybe we just invest in a larger one and
Okay.
the smaller one.
Yeah,
Because we are gonna have some people that's probably gonna have a bigger one.
yeah, so we definitely,
What do you
right.
think?
I think, well, when you're looking at the boat lifts, and I thought this range was 6 feet up and down. But anyway, when you look at, I was looking at, 'em, we definitely need two. We decided we need two manual boat
Yeah.
lifts. But this company does make bigger ones, they're a couple of thousand.
Yeah, I was just thinking, because you know, he's got that really big one that's
Right.
kind of got a sail on it, a mast, I'm sorry.
It's got the catamaran, the small catamaran.
Yeah.
So I think for that type of craft, he would have to launch that from the South Beach. And he
Right.
probably has a dolly to move it around.
Yeah,
So that would be a
Yeah,
South
he-
Beach launch. But, with this new truck ramp, it would be, that's another thing, which actually I forgot to highlight. One of the reasons we wanted to do this ramp to the South Beach was so that for folks that are launching there, maybe small
True.
sailboats,
yeah, he could probably take
it's
that
easy
one
to
down.
get on and
there.
off the
Yeah,
beach.
Yeah. Cool.
I-
We'll
I-
stick with the two that you
Okay.
got then.
Okay, yeah, right, so for the paddlecraft launch deck, I was thinking more, kayaks and canoes and stand-up paddle boards.
Cool.
Okay,
I do want to add one thing. It was in discussion and it was when we went out and got one of these two grants is an ADA boat, boat lift. So if we can just add that in there and see if it's possible.
we can, it's,
Because we have a lot of disabled veterans
Yep.
that come here. We have a couple in town that live in town that ask about it. So
so I can jump in and then Phil may have something to add. Well, okay, so first of all, for these manual boat launches from paddle decks, there are things that you can do to make it easier for someone with disabilities to get in and out
Okay.
of their canoe. There's ramps and steps and railings and stuff like that. But Phil and I have had some discussions about this, and we were thinking that it would probably be safer, if you think about kind of sometimes the wave action in that location, sometimes the water can be deep. It might be better and safer for someone who was launching a kayak to maybe do it from the South Beach area, to do it from the soft launch versus, with a wheelchair on the paddlecraft launch deck over open water, trying to manipulate getting the boat into the manual launch. So while we could do it, we could make it accessible, ADA accessible. We were kind of concerned about safety, frankly.
I'm going to defer to you guys. You're the expert with this stuff.
So Phil,
So
did you want to?
Just we're using the grant money. for
Yes.
This project and because the way the grants were, it has to be ADA compliant. It has to be accessible by everyone.
Right.
So we must have at least one ADA compliant.
Okay.
Okay.
So we'll at least have it there, but also have a backup that they can go to the South Beach.
Of course, yeah.
We'll do whatever to
Just
accommodate them.
Something that, they can get on and use themselves without.
Perfect.
any help.
Just want to keep it in our,
Okay.
make sure that we don't miss that part.
You only need one, then the next one can be whatever you want.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're never going to have like 10 people waiting in line to
Yeah.
do it.
Well, you can also, if someone who's doesn't need, doesn't have a disability can use the one that a person with a disability can use.
Right.
It just is gonna it's just gonna be easier for a person with a disability to get into their boat and then lower it down with
Perfect.
railings and steps and things like that.
Perfect. All right. Perfect. So during our council meeting, I'll reread these 8. We'll signify to move forward. And let's get this thing started. So that's wonderful. I'm out here. Anything else before we take a motion and then we get back together at 7? Any other questions? No, no. All right. Well, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
So move second. Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. So move. Thank you. Come back at closer to 7.